it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, if you couldn't tell from how wonky my shelves are looking, I have some recommendations. So I just got the random idea to do some recommendations of some of my favorite books within some of my favorite genres. Obviously I couldn't include all of them because I do have like retellings I want to include in there, gothic novels I want to include, but then the video will get too long and I feel like I haven't read a ton of retellings and a ton of gothic novels just quite yet to be able to say like these are my favorite of all time, you know. When the sample size is a little small, it's a little hard to go from there. So I chose four genres, just kidding, 4 genres. That is fantasy, paranormal romance, contemporary, and then regular romance. And I've broken them up into YA and adult categories. But if you guys like this video and want me to do more of these videos or have recommendations for books I should read to get into these lists in the future, let me know in the comments down below and then we can figure that out. But subscribe, comment, like, do all the things, and let's get into the video. First genre I'm going to start off with is going to be fantasy, and then I'm going to do all of my YA recommendations and then all of my adult recommendations, and then we'll go from there. So one of the first books that I really enjoyed reading in like YA high fantasy stuff or fantasy in general, so it's going to have to be The Bone Witch by Rin Pecco. I've only read the first book. I have the second book chilling right up there, and I have plans to read it, but it's on my list of books that I am afraid to read because I enjoyed the first one so much, or just afraid in general. But this is a YA, like I said, high fantasy, following young Thea, who has found out that she's a bone witch after she accidentally reanimated her brother from the dead. She and her brother are now transported to the kind of like the royal city, where she has to train to be a bone witch because this is not only a very like rare, it's a feared thing in her village, but it's a rare kind of witch in the capital, and because it's so rare, she is now kind of conscripted to be prepared to fight in this war against these shadow beings. I enjoyed this quite a lot. The plot twist I wasn't really anticipating in the end, and I really did enjoy the world building. I enjoyed Thea as a character. The book gave me Studio Ghibli mixed with The Last Geisha vibes. It was very similar in the way that things were happening, and I really enjoyed seeing the world progress, and I'm intrigued to see how the rest of the trilogy goes because I know a lot of my friends really love this trilogy and I love the first book, so I have to trust their recommendations in that I will love the next 2 books as well. The next one now has some water damage to it, so I will have to have like Jake sit on my books to help flatten out the pages. And that is The Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This is the last in the Infernal Devices trilogy, following Tessa, Will, and Jem. This follows Tessa, who is an American who travels to London to look for her brother and ends up getting trapped in the world of the Shadowhunters and finds out she is not human. But this is the conclusion to the trilogy, and it's my favorite conclusion ever. Now actually, if Cassandra Clare had made them a throuple, I probably would have loved the ending even more, but as it stands, probably one of my favorite endings to a series ever. I just loved how all the characters got wrapped up. I love how the plot got wrapped up. I loved the world building. It's a Cassandra Clare book. Of course I'm going to love the world building. I loved the wrap up to the love triangle, probably one of the best love triangles ever. It's literally just the 2 boys going, I can't love her because you love her, so you take her. No, my brother, I can't love her because you love her, so you take her. And Tess is in there going, what is happening? But it's just so good. And like, if you are ever to read a Cassandra Clare book in your life, like ever, highly recommend the Infernal Devices trilogy. It's probably one of her best works yet, or one of her best works. And I love these cast of characters so much. I look forward to going back to seeing them every single time I decide to pick up the books again. They're just that good. The next 3 YA books I probably talk about quite a lot on this channel. The first one of the 3 is We Hunt the Flame by House of Faisal. It's a high fantasy, it's a duology, so you don't have to like really commit too much to it if you're looking for something like that. Enemies to Lovers, Slow Burn. It follows Saphira, who is a thief and an assassin, a hunter, I guess, a hunter who disguises herself as a man to help protect her village and bring her village resources that they cannot get. Nasir is a killer, and he takes away people's resources in a sense. These 2 are now pushed into a competition to find a lost artifact, and yeah, and while Nasir is tasked to find that same artifact, he is tasked to kill Saphira. It's one of my favorite duologies of all time. I need to reread the books because I just tab this sucker up because I can't stop thinking about these books. It's just that good. It's just that great. Like, Hafsa Faisal can do no wrong. The next one is To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monique Blackgoose. This is dragons, colonialism, indigenous dragons, and boarding school. This follows Anekus, who has long since believed that the dragons of her people have become extinct due to the great loss. I forgot the actual title of the event, but that is until she hatches a dragon herself. Now, fearing that her having a dragon would cause some unwanted attention toward their people, she then travels to the colonizers' land to attend their boarding school. Being one of two indigenous children there, or non-English children there, she now is tasked with having to learn the ways of the white people while also retaining who she is, despite them wanting her to assimilate and become what they picture to be a perfect non-English person. I have a full review of this, so I'm not going to talk too in depth about what I want to say. Just know this book has made me feel so many things. The way I think about this book quite a lot. It's what I've been missing a lot in fantasies for a very long time. Very long time. It touches on colonialism. We get really good world building. We get a character who loves herself and her people so freaking deeply. And I just highly recommend it if you have not read it. If you're a fan of dragon books, if you're a fan of boarding school books, if you're a fan of fantasy books, I highly recommend it. And if you didn't like Fourth Wing. And finally, the last YA book is one that I need to reread before October, or the series really before October, because a new installment's gonna come out, or I guess a spin-off, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I don't know what I can say about this book and not have it be great. It's about Laya, who is a slave, Elias is a soldier, and neither one of them is free. After her brother gets captured, she has to go undercover into the capital to try and find where he went and to free him, and gets kind of conscripted into this rebellion. Elias has always grown up to be a soldier. He has been told all his life that this is what he's going to be. He's going to follow in his mom's footsteps, and it's going to be great. But now he's questioning everything that he's been taught, that he's grown up with, all while Laya is trying to survive in this area that will literally kill her if she doesn't do things correctly. This series is top tier. This series is the best series ever. I took so long to read between book 2 and then 3, but once I read book 3, I finished all the way to book 4 and I sobbed the entire way through. I need to reread this series. I'm probably going to start next month actually, just so I know what's going to happen and what to anticipate when Air comes out. So it's just so good. Sabaa Tahir can do no wrong. She will reappear in this book, in this scenario, in a couple of genres. So be prepared. But this series, these characters, this heartbreak will always have a special place in my heart, and I will never not love the world building, the writing, the character progression. It's just so good. Moving on to my adult recommendations, I only have 4. The first one is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is set in 1920s Mexico, following a young girl who wants to be free, who wants to do all the things in life but cannot because her family is kind of abusive. That is until one day she accidentally opens the container holding the God of Death. The God of Death is spread out all throughout Mexico, and she and him have to traverse and go on this journey together to piece them back together before he inevitably, not on purpose, sucks the life from her. This book had such a bittersweet ending. It's such an expansive world. I loved Cassiopeia as a character. I loved the God of Death that we have, Hunkame. I loved their progression throughout the book. I loved everything about it. It's like I wanted to throw this book across the room when I finished, because it was so good, but it was so sad at the same time, and I just wanted so much more out of this, these characters, and I wanted to see the happy ending that they deserved. But it ended well because all the characters got what they want at the end, but it was still very bittersweet. The next one is considered cozy fantasy, and that is Legends and Latte by Travis Baldree. This is D&D, but cozy in a coffee shop. This follows Viv, who wants to hang up her like adventuring ways. She who discovered coffee in a dwarven city and wants to open up a coffee shop in a town where no one knows what the heck coffee is. And this is so cozy, it's so quaint, it's queer as heck. And I just absolutely adored seeing Viv and Tandri kind of work through this coffee shop and just all the little hijinks that come with it. It's very low stakes and it's very D&D inspired, and it just warms the cockles of my heart. Like, and also, I've said this every time I mention this book, but the way Travis Baldree describes pastries is the best description in the world. Like, I could smell the way that the bread was baking. I could hear the crunch. I could all but taste it, truly. The next one is another series that I need to desperately finish. I have the second book still on right there, and that is The Wolf of Oreñaro by K.S. Veloso. This is an indie publisher, I think just got a recent trad publish. I forget. But this follows a young queen, I forgot her name, Queen Talien, who has had a rough going. The night that she is crowned, her father dies, and the man she marries runs away, leaving her with her younger son. Several years down the line, he sends her an invitation to meet, and she has to kind of go forth and try to mend this marriage, mend their relationship for the sake of her people, as no one really trusts her because of what had happened. The first book is very political. If you are not the biggest fan of politics, like politics in your books, I don't really recommend it if that is the case. But I really love this character. I love the world that we get to see. It's set in kind of a pre-colonial Philippines. I'm really excited to see what happens in the second book, but I do need to reread this first book, even though the books do come with like a previously on kind of scenario. But it's very good. I highly recommend it if you have not read it yet. And the last fantasy one is, or the last adult fantasy, is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is her second book after The Night Circus. This follows Zachary Ezra Rollins as he discovers that there is a world beneath our own where everyone's stories are captured and where everyone is recorded. And he finds like his own story and the stories of other people. But I did a vlog of this when this first came out, and this book left me sobbing back in 2019. It was so beautifully written. I loved seeing Zachary's story as he progresses. I love seeing his romance. We have a character named Dorian, and I love the name Dorian to no end. I just loved all the things that brought these stories together and all the things that were in this. Like, it's how someone described it, and that I agree, is that it's a love story for readers. If you are someone who loves reading books, if you are someone who loves getting lost in these worlds and feel like you belong in them, I think this is a good book for you. It's just so good, and I think about it very often, and I just cannot wait to get back into this world and reread it. So, but the next, I guess, genre is gonna be paranormal romance, and I will stand by this. Because I think I had a friend mention in one of their vlogs recently that they are not sure if they enjoy romantasy, mainly because a lot of romantasy books are very, very light on the world building, which sometimes makes it hard for them to really get into the books, but they like the romance. If you are struggling with romantasy because you don't like the world building, or there is a lack of it, I highly recommend paranormal romances, because typically most paranormal romances are set within our world, you know. The most you'll have to do in terms of world building that the authors have to do will be like magic systems, species, but you get to see the romance aspect of it with hints of fantasy without so much annoying kind of world building that makes it difficult to jump those hurdles. I am also a paranormal romance girly. I need to read a lot more of them. I used to read a ton of them growing up, but I don't have any of the copies that I used to have anymore. So the first one, this copy's been through a lot, and I'm genuinely, it's also a series. This is the 4-book bind-up. But she has been through a lot. And that is Balefire by Kate Tiernan. This book has the 4 books, which is Chalice of Wind, Circle of Ashes, Feather of Stone, and Necklace of Water. This follows 2 twins, Thais and Cleo. Now these two grew up very differently. Thais grew up in Massachusetts with her father, and Cleo grew up in New Orleans learning what her heritage is as a witch. After an event where her father dies, Thais is now forced to spend her senior year in Louisiana with family that she's never heard of before. She doesn't know who these people are. Doesn't know. And during this time, she runs into her twin sister, whom she does not know existed, Cleo. Now, Cleo, by all accounts, is a witch. She grew up with the lineage. She grew up using how to use her magic and how to use her powers. So now it's these two twins learning about each other while also learning about the immense amount of power that they have. It's so good. There's a little bit of a weird scenario in here that I don't know how to feel about when I reread it a couple of years ago, but it's so good. I love the drama, the angst, the romances, the love triangle was also fun to see, and I loved seeing the magic system in here. I think Kate Tiernan has a way when it comes to witches, and I think she's written she's written a while ago, but I really do want to see where this series should have gone, because it's implied, like, the series is done, the quartet is done, but how it is makes me feel like it's not finished yet and there's more to come. So I don't know if you ever plan like the spin-off series or what, but I highly recommend it. It's so good. The next one is by the same author, and that is The Sweep. This is also, I have the full series, but it's all like 3 of them are like in a book bind-up. But this is The Sweep series by Kate Tiernan. This follows young Morgan, who has been very plain her entire life. Like, that's her entire personality. She's plain, she's flat-chested. She's super intelligent, but she doesn't even fit in with her family. She says she feels like a lark in like a family of, like, I forgot the other bird reference, but that is until one day Cal, ever mysterious Cal, comes into the picture, and he introduces the world of Wicca to her, and she realizes that she actually has the ability to tap into these powers, to tap into this magic, and she is just learning all about herself and all about the things that she did not learn growing up, and that brings into a question a lot of like what's up with her, why is she able to do it. I love this series so much. There is a beautiful romance in here, but yeah, you do follow these characters for a while, and I loved the world that we're getting into. I loved Morgan as a character. I really like sympathized with Morgan growing up. I didn't think I was like a not like other girls, but I definitely was just like very introverted. I really empathized and I really related to Morgan back in high school, so I highly recommend the series if you have not read it yet. I hunted for these books. These bind-ups, I found I think the first one in Walmart, and then I had to like subsequently go to like Barnes & Noble and like Borders when it was still around, and like hunt for these books once a month. The next YA book is one that I have a complete like vlog series on, so if you want to see that, go ahead, but that is The Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. I think in terms of paranormal romances, this would be kind of on the higher end because it does include a lot of world building in this one, but this follows, what's her butt? It follows Rose, and Rose is a Dhampir. She's a Dhampir. She's half vampire, and the Dhampirs are basically born and bred to take care of the Moroi, who are like the full-bred vampires, the royalty. And Rose and Lissa have been best friends ever since. Now, they had since run away from school after a threat threatened them. But now, after being caught and brought back, they are now thrown back into this world of like a boarding school and have to figure out who exactly wants Lissa dead and who wants to hurt her. Probably one of my favorite series of all time, I'm not gonna lie. I've been so hesitant to read the series. Like, my friend wanted me to read it back in high school, and I finally read it now when I'm 26. 27? 27, 20, then 26 and 27. And I really love the world building. I love Rose as a character. To see her grow as a character has been one of the most satisfying things for me to read as a reader. I love the world that we're set in. I loved kind of the magic system that Rochelle Mead created. It's very whole, which I enjoy. And I just loved reading this continuation, and it was such a fun series to be in. It's like you can turn your brain off, but at the same time not to the point where like you have to like have head empty, no thoughts to be able to enjoy it. Highly recommend the series if you have not picked it up yet. The next one is an unfinished series, and I wish it would get finished, and that is The Night World by L.J. Smith. I don't know what it is with a lot of paranormal romances, but they do clump books together. So this one is a clump of 3 books, and I have all 3 books, so there's 9 books out total. We have the last one that we have been waiting on since like 99. But this is The Secret Vampire, Daughters of Darkness, and Spellbinders. This is probably my favorite clump of 3 out of the 9 books that I own. And this is about a secret world besides our own, and which involves vampires and humans and witches. Vampires, witches, and werewolves. There we go. And this follows 3 stories. The first one being Poppy, who finds out she has cancer. Then we have The Daughter of Darkness, which follows 3 witch sisters on the run, and then we have 3 vampire sisters on the run. Then we have Spellbinder, who follows witch cousins who like basically just kind of wreak havoc and get transferred from school to school to school, and it's kind of like their last ditch effort. I love this series so much. I love the world I love hidden world concepts. I love seeing the development of these characters in such a short amount of time, and I know we'll see them in future books just because they all kind of have to come back together to finish the series out. But I love how the series has developed, and I love the inclusion of like the romances and the forbidden love. It's just so good. And the last YA paranormal romance is Fallen by Lauren Kate. She too has some water damage. This follows young Luce, who has been kind of the subject to a really bad accident where a schoolmate of hers has died. Now trying to like kind of fix her life, she's sent to kind of a correctional school, boarding school situation. And all she wants to do is keep her head low, avoid everyone at all costs. The kids here aren't necessarily like, you know, preppy kids who grew up with a lot of money. They're the exact opposite, who did a lot of crime. That is until she meets Daniel, yeah, Daniel, who wants nothing to do with her. And the more he pushes her away, the more she is inexplicably drawn to him. I enjoyed this series very, very much. I will take no hate in the comments down below at all. There is now going to be a TV show coming out about this series, and I'm very, very, very excited. It's fallen angels, it's past lives, it's all find you in every life. The first book is probably my favorite just because it's a lot more contained than the rest of the series, but I just love this one so much, and I am determined to have a book, like publish a paranormal romance book. I just don't know where to start quite yet, so I need to get back into like the readings of the paranormal romances and just really like soak it all in. Moving on to my adult recommendations. This first one, and one of the two, is A Taste of Blood Wine by Frida Warrington. This is a historical paranormal romance following kind of the First World War, or I guess after the First World War. It's following young Charlotte who is happy to just like chill for the rest of her life and take care of her father. That is until a lab assistant, Carl, comes in, and her younger sister Charlotte is like, no, I have to marry him. But instead her younger sister Madeline, my bad, has said she wants to marry him. Now Carl and Charlotte are like drawn together, and it's very interesting. It's vampires, it's forbidden romance, it's a series, and this book is nothing but vibes. Like, the plot is in there somewhere, and I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the complete nothing but vibes vibe, but there is like no concrete plot. A lot happened in this book. Too much happened in this book, but it was so good, and I had so much fun reading it. And the series kind of follows the couple. I think there's like 4 in total, and I think there's more than that. There's 5. Yeah, there's 5 in total, and I think at some point we get a little bit of a polyamorous couple kind of scenario going on, and I'm very excited for that one. So need to continue on with that series, but I have to continue on with a lot of series. I need to use my Notion tracker again. And the last paranormal romance book is one that just got recently republished with new covers. I found all 3 out of the 4 books in my used bookstore for cheap, and they're all basically almost all brand new. But that is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. This follows Oxnard, who kind of has been living with his mom and really struggling. They're not like well off, and Oxnard isn't considered the smartest guy in the class, but he's considered the nicest one in his class. Then he meets the Bennett family, who moves in next door, and finds out that they can shapeshift, and he finds an ally in the youngest Bennett, Joe. And it's just it's a budding romance between them, and it's just so cute and so sweet. And I should show you guys the cover, but I really just loved Ox as a character. I love seeing his progression as the series continues. I love seeing the absolute like love and loyalty he has for his family, and this book ripped me in 2 around like the 30% mark. Tore me in half at 30%. So take that with what you will, because if it tore me in half at 30%, I can only imagine what it's going to do for all of y'all. But the covers are so gorgeous, and I've been trying to find these books for a hot minute now, just because I'm like, yeah. I like love the first book. I want to get reading the continuation. But then I found Raven Song and Heart Song. So now I have 3 out of the 4. I just have to find the 4th one. And I have no excuse at this point in my life to not finish the series. Moving on to my contemporary picks. Some of them are probably going to be like, Teresa, this definitely falls in a romance. I say otherwise. But the first one is an Adam Silvera book who will also show up again in another category, and that is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I just said his name. This is probably like one of, it's gonna mess with my blue lighting. I can, my tones, I can feel it. This is the redesigned cover for 10 years, I think, with a new chapter, and I need to read it still, because I'm afraid. But this follows young Aaron Soto, who can't really seem to find happiness again. He's been really struggling with it. That is, who can't seem to find happiness despite his support from his mom and his girlfriend Genevieve. That is until he meets Thomas, a new kid on the block, and he starts to feel some kind of warm and fuzzy feelings for Thomas. Now, with this, there's kind of an undercurrent of this, I forgot the company name exactly. This company who has been well known for being able to remove like a traumatic memory from the back of your brain and take it away, and that changes who you are completely. And just keep that in mind. But this book broke my heart. It was probably like one of the first queer books I've read, and it was just so beautiful, and it was just so sad. I just love this book so much. I feel like this book will have a part of me always. And I will never not love this book, and I will always gravitate toward this book if you are looking for a heartbreaking queer read about finding yourself and learning about who you are and accepting who you are in its like entirety, and learning to love the people for who they are in their entirety. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And I will be rereading this and finishing the final deluxe chapter, because I ran to the bookstore when this came out and I never read it. So the next one is Monday Is Not Coming, who will also, this cover will also mess up my balance, but that is by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is this follows young Claudia, who comes back after, I guess, like a summer away, and she's expecting her best friend Monday to be there at school, and she isn't. Now, she is struggling to find people who will believe her, who will help her find Monday. And the more and more she seems to learn more about Monday and what's going on, the more people around her seem to be forgetting about Monday. And she seems to be the only one screaming, trying to find her friend. This book broke my heart into a bajillion pieces. I have a vlog on it, so you can watch everything. And you can watch the moment that my brain's like, oh, fudge. It had such a beautifully heartbreaking and bittersweet ending, and I feel like you can see kind of the message that Tiffany D. Jackson gets across, that black girls aren't protected. No one listens to black girls. No one wants to protect black girls, but we need to protect these black girls. And she even dedicates it to the black girls who are still missing, who have not been found yet, and hopes that we'll be able to find them and bring them home. This book was done with so much love and so much nuance, and you can just tell how much Claudia loves Monday and how much Claudia wants Monday home. And she just wants someone to sit down with her and believe in her and just take her seriously enough to be able to find her friend. The next one is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is written in verse. I love books written in verse. So this follows Xiomara, who is kind of like growing into herself. You know, she's like, going through the puberty of things. She's growing curves in places where she didn't have curves before. And her mother is just not all for it. Her mom thinks she should be a proper woman who, dresses modestly, who doesn't date, who doesn't do X, Y, and Z. But she is invited to join her school's slam poetry club and kind of falls in love with the concept of poetry and writing her feelings out on paper. And we get to see Xiomara's journey as she really defines who she wants to be, and all of her struggles with religion and her mother and her father, and being a woman, being a colored woman in this day and age. I love this book so much. Elizabeth Acevedo is one of my autobi authors. I have read all of her books up until Family Lore, which I need to. But I just love her writing style. I love Xiomara as a character. I really related to her struggles with her mom growing up around that time. It's about the time that I started butting heads with my own mother. And I loved the written in verse. It was I listened to audiobook first before I finally bought the physical book, and the audiobook is so beautifully done. The way that the poems are read out loud, the pacing of it, just gorgeous writing. I highly recommend it if you have not read The Poet X. It's so good. So good. The next one is Speak by Lori Halse Anderson. This follows young Melinda on the heels of a sexual assault. She's sexually assaulted by someone in high school, and when she goes to report it, no one really believes her, but she ends up stopping the biggest party of all time, and effectively gets everyone to stop being friends with her. After this event, she goes nonverbal. She does not speak, she does not take care of herself, she just kind of wants to skate by and just try her best to get through school. This is her just trying to heal through this and just trying to find a place where she is comfortable in her own skin again. That is until she runs into another attack, only this time she can't bring herself to stay as quiet as she had in the past. I struggle a little bit talking about this book because it is so personal to me. Melinda's story is so personal to me. Not because I relate to it 100%, but I do relate to it in some aspects, but it's just so beautifully done, and to see the story of healing and just how it's not so linear, and to see all the things that Melinda had to go through and try to understand about herself before she could even begin the healing process. I highly recommend it. I genuinely don't have words to describe how much I love this book and how much this book means so much to me. It's just beautifully written. It deals the topic with so much love and care. The next one is All My Rage by Saba Tahir. This follows three perspectives. Misbah, who is an immigrant who had to flee her home life, have moved and have opened up a motel hoping for a new start. Then it follows two other ones' perspectives. Salahuddin, who is Misbah's son now, and Noor, who is Salahuddin's best friend. Sal is on the heels of losing his mother. He is struggling to really make ends meet and keep his mother's hotel that she loves so dearly, all while the fact that his father is now an alcoholic due to this loss, and it's very hard for him to be a parent. Noor is his best friend, or was his best friend up until a falling out they had several months prior. She is trying to leave Juniper, California because of her abusive, both physically and sexually abusive uncle, and she's just trying to make it through the year and to make it out. She wants to find the college and just leave, and it's just a beautiful story about grief and loss and just trying to find your own voice and trying to work through that. It's a beautiful book. I don't know what else to say. I have a full review of this, but I love this book so much. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Saba Tahir just has this way of creating characters that you want to root for, of creating a prose you can get easily lost in, and it's just absolutely stunning what she did with this book. It deserves all of the awards, all of it. The last YA contemporary I have for you is The Silence That Binds Us by Joanna Ho. This follows May. She does not follow what her mom wants her to be. She likes to wear hoodies and sweats, and her mom wants her in nice shirts and dresses. She wants to be a writer and does not want to be anything what her mom wants to do. She is not the favorite. However, her older brother Danny is. Danny can do no wrong. He is perfect in every way, shape, or form. That is until he receives he gets rejected from Stanford, I believe, and he then proceeds to commit suicide. Not only does his death leave her family shaken, but it leaves the school system shaken. A lot of parents are blaming Asians for making these very difficult expectations and adding unnecessary pressure on other students, and May is just trying to keep her brother's memory alive and not have it be so tainted by the people who would want to see Black, Indigenous, and people of color be squashed because of what they think and how they want it. And May's family is telling her to keep her head down, don't say anything, but May wasn't raised that way. She doesn't want to see her brother's memory, her parents' hard work, her parents' love for her brother be squandered and turned into something negative. So she uses the only thing she can, her writing, to show them exactly the kind of people her family are, the kind of person that her brother was. This book was a surprise to me. It hurt me a lot. A lot more than I thought it was going to. It has discussions about solidarity within within the BIPOC community. It talks about pressure in families. It talks about breaking kind of that, like, keep your head down, don't say anything. It talks about relationships and expectations in families. And it talks about healing. It hit me harder than I ever thought it would. I didn't think it was going to hit me at all, but it did, and I love this book so much. It was written so well. I love seeing May as a character. I love seeing her fight for her family and just try to see things from a different perspective. I loved to see her friends and how they protected her and how they stood up for her and how they wanted what was best for her and encouraged her to keep doing this. It's just so good. It was just so good. Moving on to the adult contemporary novels, the first one I have is also, I know it's supposed to be a love story, but I think it's more contemporary. That is Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This follows Florence, who is a ghostwriter. She's been ghostwriting for this well-known romance author for years, and she's at the end of her contract. She has to finish just this one book, but she is stuck with an immense amount of writer's block after the breakup, a really rough breakup, where the dude took what she had told him about her family, and wrote about it. She now meets her new editor, or her new agent, Ben, who won't give her an extension. So she just kind of walks away with her head in her hands, not sure what to do, and then finds out that her father passed away. She is now sent off to go back home, where she had kind of essentially run away because she can see ghosts. I forgot to mention that. She can see ghosts, and she was kind of like bullied out of her town. That is until she runs into Ben at her family's funeral home and realizes he's not there for a friendly visit. He's actually dead. This book took me for a ride. This book definitely does not feel like there's romance in there, don't get me wrong. There's like romance, and it's there, and it's cute, don't get me wrong. But I do think it falls more in the contemporary aspect just because of the topics it does handle. It does handle with grief. It handles with relationships and learning to trust again. It handles with burnout and learning how that works. It handles tackling your traumas and healing and growing from that and learning to trust yourself again. And I love seeing Florence's story progress. I love seeing her character kind of break out of the mold of never asking for help, of handling things on her own, of internalizing everything and then not knowing what to do with her father's death. And I love seeing her come together with her family and just see her start to break out of those bad habits and start asking for help and start expressing her feelings and start knowing that her family is a safe space that she can go to no matter what, and that her family loves her no matter what, and that like the things that haunted her back in the day are no longer things that she has to worry about, and there are people that will accept her for everything. It was beautiful, and I cried a lot reading this book. It's a lot like Honey Girl, where I wasn't expecting it to hit as hard as it did, but it did, and I hate it for it, but I love it at the same time. And the last adult contemporary recommendation I have for y'all is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. It follows Vanessa, who basically goes to a new school and has to basically start over. She is kind of like she's a young kid. She's like 16, 17, maybe even younger than that, probably 14, who just wants to be treated like an adult. And then she runs into her teacher, Jacob Strain. Yes, Jacob Strain. And a relationship between them starts to ensue. Now fast forward to 2017. With the rise of the Me Too movement, people are trying to come to Vanessa. Other victims of her professor are asking her to speak up, as he is now put on trial for his very inappropriate and very predatory behavior toward his female students. And Vanessa is struck at an odd. She doesn't really know what to do. She knows that the relationships that she had with her teacher was highly inappropriate and not correct at all. But at the same time, she has a lot of complex emotions about her relationship and her feelings for this man all throughout her adulthood, from her childhood to her adulthood. This book threw me for a loop. I didn't think I was gonna love this book as much as I did, but I did. I loved it so much. It was so heartbreaking, and it just shows that she wasn't there's no concept of the perfect survivor, the perfect witness, or whatever, however you want to put it. We get to see Vanessa really start to question her relationship with this man, while also still harboring very strong feelings. We get to see how her relationship with him has altered every aspect of her life, from her career to her relationships with her family to her relationship to other people and even to herself, and how she even views the world. So it's just such a heartbreaking novel, and it's definitely not meant for the lighthearted, but it was beautifully written. I think it's done with a lot of like care and love for victims, and I loved seeing Vanessa really unpack this really unhealthy and predatory behavior that was done on her, and you get to see the little moments too. Like Vanessa's looking back at it with like a almost like numbed feeling to it. She's like relived this entire experience over and over and over again, and she's numb to it. But you get to see the little moments where like Vanessa at her youngest was like horrified of what happened, of what was going on, and the little moments where even adult Vanessa is looking back at it with like horror and like disgust. Highly recommend this book if you are in the right headspace. Let me just reiterate that. If you are in the right headspace, recommend the book. If you're not, don't do it. Don't do it. This is the romance category with all the YA recommendations. Let me just pull up this one. The first one of this romance category for YA is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This is also one of the first queer romance books I've read. This follows not so openly gay Simon. We've all seen the movie. We've seen the spin-off show, La Victor, who has been emailing back and forth with a cute boy from school. That is until his emails are found out and he's being blackmailed to set this dude up with his best friend, or else he'll spread the emails out. Now Simon's kind of stuck at a weird crossroads trying to figure out how he can do this without jeopardizing his best friend, and how he can also figure out who Blue is, because Blue is this wonderful boy that he's starting to fall for. This was such a cute book. I sobbed. I sobbed during the movie. I sobbed reading the book. It was just so good, and it just like touched on all of my heartstrings. And like I said, it was one of the first queer books I ever read around the time that I had come out, actually. So this book will always have a special place in my heart. This movie will always have a special place in my heart. It's just so beautifully done, and there's a lot of love, I think, within the pages of these books, and how Simon gets to learn how to love himself and how to express himself and just be himself. The last YA romance recommendation is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I still need to read the prequel, but that's neither here nor there. This follows two point of views, Rufus and Mateo. These two boys have received the dreaded death cast call. What that is basically someone calls you and goes, you are going to die in 24 hours. You don't know how, you don't know why, but you just know that you are going to die. And these two boys end up finding each other through, I guess, through an app, like a dating app almost, or like Meetup for people who are on their last day, and they end up meeting up and they end up spending basically an entire lifetime together in the span of 24 hours. I knew what was going to happen. I knew. And I still sobbed. It was a beautifully written book. It was heartbreaking, and I love seeing Rufus and Mateo fall in love and really just like get to enjoy one another and just like love one another. But it was heartbreaking, and I'd love to recommend this book to you guys because it was so great and it was so beautiful, but it's gonna wreck you emotionally and spiritually for a long time like it has me. So take this recommendation lightly because it will hurt. I haven't even read the first one yet, or the prequel, because I don't know if I'm ready for it yet, because Adam Silvera tends to write heartbreaking novels, and I don't know why he does it. I don't understand it, truly. I've been filming for too long. Moving on to my last part and the adult romances. The first one is You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. This follows Jasmine, who is like a telenovela star. She's great, I love her. After the heels of a messy breakup, she is now tasked to star in a new romantic comedy television show. Meanwhile, Ashton, who is another telenovela star, is worried that his career is gonna start to die off because he was killed off in his last show. So he joins this show, and the two of them meet and fall in love. But Ashton has a secret that makes it very, very difficult for him to get close to anyone, and Jasmine is still kind of like slowly getting over a breakup, a really messy breakup, and doesn't know if she wants to get into a relationship just quite yet. I love this book series so much. I love this one, and then It Sounds a Lot Like Adios were also some of my favorite reads of when I read them. They're so good, they're so fun. I really love the kind of the backstory with like how the characters are falling in love and then they're falling in love. It was just so cute and so heartwarming, and I really love Alexis Daria. I'll be picking up more of her novels because they were just so good. The next one I've also talked about a lot on this channel, and that is Delilah Green Does Not Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This follows Delilah Green. She basically has sworn she'd never go back to Bright Falls, her like kind of hometown, after her father died and her stepmom and stepsister were not the kindest. But she is asked to photograph her stepsister's wedding, and she's like, why not? It'll give me some money and we'll just do it. Then she runs into Claire Sutherland, one of her stepsister Astrid's stuck-up friends, and they have a little thing. It was just so good. I love the pacing of this book. It's a pretty like thick book comparable to a lot of like the romances that we see on the shelves, but it goes by super fast. I love the relationship between all the people. I loved Claire and Delilah's relationship. I love Delilah as a character. She's just so spunky, and it's just so much fun to read to be in her head. It was just so good. I highly recommend it. I have I have Ashford Parker Doesn't Fall on my TBR, and I'll be reading that probably sometime soon. So fingers crossed. I enjoyed the second book as much as I loved the first one, but I mean, I can't go wrong with an Ashley Herring Blake book. She's one of my favorite authors of all time. The next one is Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. This follows, Gavin, whose marriage is falling apart. His wife finally announced for divorce, and he's like, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't understand. And then his buddies, who are also like all-star players, decide to take pity on him and invite him to their book club where they read romance novels to try and understand the woman's psyche more, understand what it means to really care for a woman from a woman's perspective. And he joins, and it's great. We basically get to see him read these books and have no understanding, and then all of a sudden understand how it's working when he tries to win his wife back. It was such a fun, like, kind of rom-com kind of scenario. I would love to see this get adapted into a book or like a TV series or something, because there are like a few books in the series now. So I think like a TV show would be so much fun, and it's just like super rom-com-y. I love it. I think we could do like a very much like a Bridgerton scenario where it's like every season's a different set of characters with cameos from the previous characters. It's just so good. I highly recommend it. The next one is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. I guess it could also fall under like contemporary, but I don't know. This follows Grace, who goes on a girls' trip to Vegas and ends up married. She doesn't really know this woman. She's confused as to how this happened. She just graduated with her PhD. She's trying to find her way in the world and try to like get into like actually being an adult. But on the heels of not being able to find a job and really struggling with the job market, she ends up running away to New York to meet her wife Yuki and just really like get to know her and fall in love with her. This book was great. This book deals with like burnout, which again, I didn't expect that in there. So thank you very much for all of y'all who did not say that. It deals with burnout. It deals with like really struggling to see who you are as a person after so many years. And it's like beautifully written. There was like one line that got me in like tears where they talk about like the little droid, the drone that like died asking for help because he was like lost and they couldn't reconnect, and I sobbed. But it was a really good book. I really enjoyed, again, to see Grace open up more and really just be like, okay, yeah, I need to ask for help. I need to go to therapy. I need to really work on why this is such a struggle for me, and let the preconceived notions I had about myself go to be able to become who I want to be. It was a good book. I liked it. The romance was also very cute, and I loved it so much. And finally, the last book is one that I've also mentioned a lot on the channel, and that is The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellefleur. This follows Tansy, whose greatest love is her family's bookstore, but that is kind of a struggle because her stepmom wants to sell it because it hasn't been doing so hot. And she also just kind of wants to focus on her bookstore, but everyone in her family is like, well, where are you gonna get a partner? When are they coming? So she makes up a lie and says she is dating Gemma, who is a fake girlfriend who's on the cover of a lot of romance novels. And so this will never happen, it'll be fine, we'll just kind of keep it quiet until something does happen. And then on, like, I think her stepsister's wedding day, she finds out Gemma is a real person and is no longer alive. But instead of telling everyone what's going on, Gemma says, you know what, we can do this, we can fake date, because you need something and I need something. And it all works out and they fall in love. Gemma, as a romance, like a love interest, had me blushing. Like, the thing she was saying to Tansy had me blushing. So if that's not enough to recommend this book to you guys, like, I love the romance progressions, I love the struggles that they both get with, that they both have, and I love to see them just fall in love. But if that isn't enough to get you to read this book, I don't know what will. This book was so much fun, and I cannot wait for Alexandria Belfleur's next book that's coming. I think there's like a bisexual main character, and it looks cute. So I highly recommend it if you have not had a chance to read this yet. It's just so good. But that is it for some of my favorite books from my favorite genres. If you want me to do more of these, let me know in the comments, or if you want me to read books that you think that I would really enjoy because of this list, also let me know in the comments and we'll go from there. But until next time, hope you guys are staying safe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.